Okay. Okay, we're live on YouTube, and I have a few more people to let in, and then Mary can start.
Joan, can you hear me? Hello, can anybody hear me?
I can hear you, Mary. You're not real loud, but I can hear you.
All right, I'll make it louder. Is that better?
A little bit.
That's as high as I can go. It's not coming through on my earphones. I don't know why. All right. You can let me know when to start, Joan.
Anytime. It's after 7.
Okay. All right, so I, Mary McVeigh, will call the May 19th, 2021 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 o'clock. In attendance via Zoom are Supervisors Morris, Auerbach, and Day, and Vice Dave Gerstenhaber will be joining us in about a half an hour. Also in attendance are Solicitor Mark Thompson, Township Manager Joe McBall, Assistant Township Manager Jeff Eastburn, Secretary Mary Opromola, and how many members of the public?
2. 3.
Okay, 3. Okay, we'll start off with an announcement that the Board of Supervisors held an executive session on Friday, May 14th to discuss legal issues. The first discussion was about graffiti on the Hess Mill Bridge. We discussed reimbursement and means to secure the same. It's over $4,000. On recommendation of council, the board's consensus will be relayed to the state police, who will proceed according to the law, and the court will decide. The second decision was relevant to 3327 Appleton Road and signage of lot line changes to the subdivision plan. This will be discussed tonight as the second item under business. This is an ongoing issue, and the township is working with council to reach an agreeable path forward. Okay, now we go to public comment. Public comment is for anything relating to items on tonight's agenda. The last public comment is for items not on tonight's agenda. It's important to state your name clearly for the record so your comments can be reflected accurately. Please state whether you're a township resident or a township taxpayer. If you're using YouTube, you must type in your name and address before your comment will be recognized. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be reflected in the minutes. Is there any public comment? Okay, there doesn't seem to be any public comment at this time. So we'll move on to Donna, to you for the minutes, please.
Excuse me, do we want to do the pledge?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Ah, thank you. I always forget. All right, let's start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of the
the
United States of America
America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible, with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice.
for all.
justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for reminding me, Donna.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary. So I'll
Now
get
you
to the
take it. Thank you.
approval of the minutes. So we have several, remember, we've had several meetings. A lot of it was for the road meeting, so we had to play a little catch up. And so Mary's been really helpful making that happen. So let me start off with the minutes from February 26, 2021. Once again, that was a road meeting. And I'm a motion for the board to approve version 1 of the Board of Supervisors road meeting minutes held on February 26, 2021. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, thanks, Mary. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have some comments. Today, the board, these comments apply to these minutes and some other things. Today, the Board of Supervisors received a large quantity of complex documents that are relevant to tonight's meeting. Meeting minutes from meetings long past, legal documents related to Appleton Glen. There's been insufficient time to review these documents with a level of understanding that's appropriate for an informed decisions. Unfortunately, this has been a pattern of repetitive events preceding the last 3 board meetings. The only option tonight is to delay processing some of the issues in tonight's meeting, but more importantly, this continuing practice needs an effective remedy. Just a few weeks, one of our members did not get an opportunity to review critical documents until the evening after a meeting on the COA for the demolition of 3327 Appleton. So these first 2 sets of minutes, I'm not going to approve those. I only received them today. They're from meetings way past. I have to go back and look at notes to really determine whether they're appropriate. So I'm not going to approve the first 2 sets of minutes.
But John, I want to comment on that.
Go ahead, please.
I didn't get a massive amount of minutes delivered to me today. They were in my book, which I had on Friday. So I, over the weekend, went back, because I don't remember what was said in February or March. I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. But in any case, I went back over all the YouTubes, and any changes that Mary Oprahmola sent us today were, I'm talking about a couple of words. It was that slight. The only one I'm going to have an issue with is the next one, because I think we have mixed up comments on schoolhouse and old schoolhouse through no fault of Mary. It was during the meeting, I think we had trouble. Are you talking about old schoolhouse now, or are you talking about schoolhouse? Because we jumped back and forth, but there was no major download of information today. We had it on Friday, and I went over it all over the weekend. And
All right, now Mary, 2 sets of minutes were issued today about midday by Mary Oprahmola. It's the first time I ever saw them.
well, they were in your book, John. Did you get your book on Friday?
So maybe Mary, you can tell us what the changes were today from the book last Friday, because we all got the book last week, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
Friday. Everybody should have got it Friday. The changes, Mary, you could speak. I didn't print out the changes, but they are minor. They are a couple words.
Mary, I can speak to that if you want.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
So John, I guess when we're talking about the March 26, 2021 road meeting, there was a 30% added for clarification. The word old was removed from Schoolhouse Road in one of the paragraphs. And then there was just a little more clarification to add repairs to Heather Hills Road and Old Schoolhouse Road, as to defining what was part of the overall plan for the road projects and what was like on the list as a to-do if needed. And then at the bottom, there was some clarity on Old Schoolhouse Road
Right.
drainage, and also drain repairs, how much they're going to cost. That'll be determined later to the board. So it was really like 2 sentences there.
Right. Right. Yeah, there it was very, very minor, the changes, but I know I've heard it over and over again. We need to be accurate with these minutes. We need to put all the, whatever you call it, in there. And I understand the confusion on Old Schoolhouse and Schoolhouse, because it was confusing during the meeting with Ron Reagan. We weren't always all on the same road. So yeah, so that's what Mary was trying to qualify. It's minor.
Right, and then the other minutes was modifications. I gave my original version instead. I printed the wrong version. After it was reviewed by Donna and Mary, I printed the wrong version and put it in the book. So I was just sending you the correct version that was already previously reviewed and agreed upon.
And again, Mary, very, very minor changes, correct?
Yes.
I didn't make any changes to that.
So then I sent out a new motions sheet that only updated 1.1 version. And then I also gave you a new updated motion sheet, but it wasn't really necessary, but I just thought it would be important for you guys to have it if you were, wanted to have it proper for the record. And the book was updated too to reflect the current versions. And I sent the book out again electronically.
Yeah. And you highlighted the changes you made.
Yes, and it was only on that one set. It was only that one set of minutes, which was the
March 26th road meeting.
26th. Yeah, March 26th. And then I updated the version to 1.1.
So John, I disagree. I think like 2 paragraphs is not a big deal. And this is a road meeting, and then we took it to the board and decided on the roads, and now we bid out the roads. This is not that big a deal, but we do want to be accurate, So.
Well, I'm comfortable voting if anyone else is.
Yeah, I am too.
I am too.
Donna, so you want to get all in favor?
Yeah, I hope I'm reading everything right. So we're working. Can I just work on the February 26th one? That's where I'm at now, right?
Yep.
So I got a second from Mary. So all in favor, say aye. For that February, aye. So 3, and all again say nay.
Nay.
Okay. And so I'm seeing 3-1. Do I have? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I see.
Okay. And then I'll go to the next one, which is the March 26th meeting minutes. Okay. I make a motion for the board to approve the version 1.1 of the Board of Supervisors road meeting minutes held on March 26, 2001. Could I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, hi. Thanks, Nancy. Any discussion?
Yes. They're not, Mary, I'm sorry. I was down the office this morning. You showed me, then I had to run out of town. I didn't get back till 6:30 tonight. It's really close, but it's not quite like schoolhouse and old schoolhouse. I'm talking, I think, like 3 or 4 words we need to change to verify which road we're talking about. So I want to vote against this, approving these minutes. And then
Mary, I can hardly hear you. Is that just my problem?
No, I can't either. I can't hear her.
You can't hear me?
No.
I'll try to plug in again and see what happens.
You were fine like before, and now then you like went down in volume.
What's going on? I'm on my computer.
What I'm hearing from you, Mary, is maybe we withdraw the March 26th and bring that back. I think John would be happy with that too. We bring that back to the next meeting. I know I can't hear you at all.
Bring them to the next meeting, Donna, and then we'll have those few words changed, and then they'll be, I think, accurate. And because I did go back and listen to all the YouTube, meetings, and it's just, we're really close, but I would like them redone, and I'll be happy to meet with you, Mary. And
Okay, no problem. That's fine. I mean, we're trying to get them all done quickly.
exactly. And there's no rush on getting these minutes approved. I mean, we already have decided on the roads. The roads have gone out for bids, so these minutes are not going to hold that process up.
Now, I'll move on to the next version. And John, hopefully you're okay with the April 21st, because I don't believe there were any changes to that version. That was in your book.
We got to vote on the road minutes for March 26th, like all in favor.
I thought we're withdrawing that one.
Oh, you want to withdraw it? Okay.
Yeah, right. We're going to bring that back next meeting, right? You're going to work with Mary.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next one. And I'll motion for the board to approve version 1 of the April 21st, 2021 Board of Supervisors minutes. And could I have a second for that?
I'll second that, Donna.
Okay, Mary. And then any discussion? John, are you better off with that version? Are you okay with the April 21st?
I thought we withdrew it. March 26th was withdrawn.
Yeah, we're on April 21st.
April 21st, John.
What was
I'm on the
I thought the motion was for April 21st.
It is.
Yeah. Right. So let me just review. So we just withdrew the March 26th meeting minutes, so that's good. You'll see them next meeting, and then you'll have a chance to look at it. I just made a motion for the April 21st minutes. It's another road meeting. No, this is.
No, Board of Supervisors.
No, this is the actual, you're right, thanks, Mary. This is our last Board of Supervisors meeting, and it was in your book, and Mary gave the second. So I'm just asking for any discussion for the April 21st, our last board meeting minutes. Okay, I'm not hearing any. So I'm gonna ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Anyone against, say nay. Okay, great. So that passes 4-0. We're getting there. And then the last ones that we're going to look at would be the April 26th, and that was the special meeting we did for the Appleton property. And so I'm going to make a motion for the board to approve version 1 of the Board of Supervisors special meeting minutes held on April 26, 2021. Could I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that's Nancy. And any discussion? Great, and this was also in your book, this wasn't changed. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great, and anyone against, say nay. Okay, so motion approves 4-0. All right, thank you, Mayor, we got through it.
Thank you, Donna. All right, we're going to reports, and Dave isn't on yet, so I'm going to take him.
Mary, how about if I read it? Because I don't know, for whatever reason, we can't hear you.
I don't know either. My volume is totally up. When I plug in my earphones, you don't hear me at all, and my volume's at 100%. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what the problem is.
All right, well, Nancy, would you read it?
Sure. I make a motion that the board approve the April 2021 Treasurer's Report, which includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $333,137.02. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $6,452.72. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $6,098.75. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $3,937.50. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,427,427.67. Seconded by.
I'll second that, Nancy.
Okay, thanks. Discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0.
Going, Nancy.
Okay.
Donna, do you want to update the board on the fact that you did the bank rec this month?
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's really good. So, so remember the last meeting, we talked about the audit, and there was a recommendation for a member of the board to look at, just reconcile like you would do a checkbook. And I was negligent in doing that, but I finally got it done. So I finally started, and I was able to look at the general fund, everything balanced, everything looks beautiful. And I also looked at the park and recreation fund. I just picked one at random, and once again everything balanced. And I'll do that same for the month of May. So I'll do the same thing again, and just pick a different fund to look at. And I can just report back. It's a good idea. Every time we have the treasurer's report, I can report back.
Thank you for doing that, Donna.
Thank you.
That's one thing I like to do, so thank you. Thank you for letting me do it. I'm sorry it took me so long to get started.
Oh, Donna, that's one thing I hate doing, but thank you for doing it. I appreciate
No
it.
problem. I love numbers, especially if there's a dollar sign in front of them, so it's lots of fun. And our books are in good shape. I mean, Joan does a nice job setting it up, so it's not hard to follow.
Great. All right, zoning officer report. In the month of April 2021, 11 permits were issued, $3,961.74 in building fees, and $2,585 in miscellaneous fees were collected. 36 inspections were performed. There was one zoning issue reported. Maybe Joan or Jeff can tell us what that was.
That is a bamboo issue at the corner of Peacedale Road, and the applicants are working with Jeff, again, trying to take care of that and scheduling to have someone come in and remove it.
Thanks, Joan.
I do want to bring up another issue. So I was contacted by a resident regarding 126 Carriage Run. Had to do with high grass. So I forwarded that complaint to Joan, and Joan's working with the resident through the process. I guess Joan, with the complaint has to be filed, and then you'll work.
Right. It goes to the zoning officer, and then he reaches out to the offender and tries to remedy the situation. I do want to say, I don't know what it is with this year, but we have received so many high grass complaints already. And that's unusual. You know, we might get one a year, one a summer, but this year, I think it's 4 already we've received.
I received the exact same complaint. I just didn't get a chance to forward it to the township manager from the neighbor. I do know somebody who lives nearby and drove by the property recently. The property is vacant, and I'm told that the bank owns it. So we really need to find out who the bank is and get after them to do the property maintenance.
Okay.
John, I think
John,
you're
could you
up.
pick up from there, please?
Just have to turn my sheet. Where's it? No, John, I think it's you.
It is. John, you're up.
All right, the PC did not hold a meeting in May, excuse me. The HARB and Historic Commission will provide an update from the May 4th, 2021 meeting. I assume that's Paul. Please make your report.
Paul, you sound like Mickey Mouse again. Did you have a helium balloon?
He said nothing to report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank goodness.
Oh, well, sorry, Paul. Sorry. Okay, I guess now we'll move on to the Park, Rec, and Open Space, the Pro Committee. Chairman Sachs is going to provide a brief update of the Pro's May 5th meeting. Here you go, Greg. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right, so a few updates. I'll start with the healing garden. Karen from Natural Lands, who is our designer, has the design drafted. She's currently working on sourcing the plants, and she's focused on getting them locally. And Mary, I know you were wondering about the stone donation that you offered.
Yes.
She did get back to me, and she said that, you know, she could potentially use some stone as mulch around the trees, but since it's kind of a bigger stone, she's not sure how much she can use, just because you can't really make a pathway with it, you know?
Right.
But she also said we could also possibly use it as a trench area to collect some excess stormwater. So she didn't give me an exact amount, but, you know, it sounds like she's leaning towards, you know,
This is a process.
not needing a ton of it.
Okay. Okay.
So that's where we're at with the gardens. A
Should
quick update on the pickleball and the comfort station is that the work is scheduled to begin early to mid-June. So we're just waiting to get that done. I also wanted to mention that one of our board members, Mary Hanley, and her husband kindly assisted with the removal of a downed tree at the Banffshire Preserve on one of the trails there.
Oh, nice. I saw those pictures, Greg. That was wonderful what they did.
Yeah, I'm glad they were able to get out there.
Yeah.
Volunteer Steve Cottrell, who I spoke about last meeting, he's offered his time and expertise to help with the invasive removal at Crossan Park. And I followed up with him, and he plans to start working in June. He's going to start focusing on the Tree of Heaven. And, you know, then he's going to worry about other species as time permits him.
Is that to get rid of them, or do you want
Yeah,
to get rid
that's
of?
exactly, that's to get rid of it. And that's, if you're unfamiliar with it, that's the preferred host plant of the lanternfly, spotted lanternfly.
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay.
So yeah, that's their favorite tree. Let's see what else I got here. On our Eagle Scout project, or I guess one of the Eagle Scout projects, I spoke with Ryan. He's the one who's doing the bird box installations and the tree plantings at Crossan. His project was approved last week, and his plan is to start on the birdhouses within the next 2 weeks. And he's going to reach out and contact the nursery that he's planning on dealing with to confirm his tree purchases. I know it was, our board's concern and the supervisor's concern, the amount of trees. So he's working on, trying to get more trees than he originally was going for. Let's see what else I got here. So the only other thing I had here was, it was the 3 items that were to be discussed and voted on. I was asked by Joan to wait till the business section to go over that stuff.
Okay.
So,
Right. Can I ask you a question? So you talked about the
Sure.
healing garden. This is not that you have to share it with the board, but I'm interested in garden stuff. Would you be able to share the design of the healing garden with us?
absolutely. I have not gotten it yet though.
Okay, but when you do, that would be, I'd like to see it, and if I can help maintain it, I would be more than happy to help.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I'll definitely share it. I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. She said she's, got it drafted up, so hopefully we'll be getting it sooner than later.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, that's all I had until, we discuss the other items. Any questions or comments?
Thanks so much, Greg, to you and the team.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we're going to move on to our business section. And
Is there a comp plan discussion?
well, Kathy Goen is not on, and they did not hold a meeting in April. So I'm presuming we'll have our next update. There's a meeting next week, I think.
Next Tuesday, and they will be reviewing 2 chapters.
Yes. So then
Yeah.
we'll have an update at the next Board of Supervisors meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And Jen, I just add, and I said this to Kathy yesterday, Tom's running out to get those chapters to us so we can look at them,
Yeah,
right?
I do not have them yet.
No, I know, she doesn't either, so. when you do.
But Donna, hopefully if they have their meeting next week, we'll have a couple weeks before the next board meeting to review all that.
Yeah, but it's better for us to get our review in before she meets with
Oh, I
the
know.
team, and they can discuss our comments. So she likes to have, like, if they're meeting on the 25th, she would like to have our comments before the 25th, and we're just running out of time.
Yeah.
It's not anybody's fault. It's just
No.
nobody has a document.
Okay, well, send your comments to Kathy, and you know how efficient she is.
Yeah. I just got to get the documents first.
Right. Okay, so we can move on to business. I see Dave is not on yet. So the first item is the 2021 road program update. And Joan and/or Jeff, I would like you to comment because you have been meeting with Ron Reagan and sending out bids. So could you take it and update the board?
Okay, I will start. The bid is out. It is on our website. And Jeff, you need to help me here how many requests for bid packages we have received. You have the latest information on that.
Right now, 4 people have filled out the information and pulled it off of the website, meaning 4 paving companies.
Okay. And so Ron, Jeff, and I also met with Jim DeRazio to go over the stormwater projects that are tied to some of the roads that we need to do. So we've been working on that with Ron. There's a couple items or couple locations that he wants to look at with Jim And I believe they're going to do that on Monday to see how to proceed with those. So, I mean, everything's moving along. And the bid is scheduled to be open on June 16th at 11:15 in the morning. And then Ron will review everything and then make a report to the board at the board meeting that night. And the board can award the bid if they choose to at that time. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I got a comment. We did pick up some additional work related to stormwater work on Hess Mill Road to talk to local resident, identified a drainage pipe along Hess Mill Road just to the west of the bridge that is severely deteriorated. It's a metal pipe that the bottom's all rotted out on it. So we really need to replace that pipe before we do the paving because it's right in the area of paving. It's not a minor project. It's about 500 feet of pipe. It looks like it's 15 to 18 inch diameter. We can't determine what size it is because the end is so deteriorated. So Jeff's done some work and it's about 500 feet of pipe. We're looking at possibly $6,800 of material. We don't have a labor cost, but it's not a minor project. The other recommendation is that we open this pipe up, and Ron's involved. We didn't have him to review the engineering and be sure that the sizing of the pipe is correct and not just replace it in kind.
That's one of the areas that they'll look at on Monday also.
And
I thought it was Friday.
It's Friday.
The meeting's this Friday. I thought you changed it to Monday.
No,
No, okay, sorry.
No, Friday at 10.
Okay.
so, John, the way you're presenting it, this is something that has to be done. Is that, I mean, do we have to vote on that or does it just happen or?
It's really have to be done because it's right along the edge of the road where you're going to repave Hess Mill Road. So you dig that pipe up after you pave the road, you're going to wreck some of the paving. So the right solution we've done all along is if there's pipe work to do, we do that work before we pave the road. So,
Joan, it sounds like once we know the total cost, I think just to keep things great, we should just vote on it. So we might
yeah,
not.
I don't have any problem voting on it, but we got to do it in a timely manner. You got to get it done before.
Sure, but we don't know the cost yet, so it's hard to vote on something we don't know the cost.
No,
Right,
it's not a
Jim
cost.
is-
The issue is it's just an advisory comment.
Sure.
Yeah, and Jim, like I said, we went over the projects for him to review. So he's working on those numbers. So we'll know what part is stormwater.
So do we have the time then, so we can wait, do we have the time to wait till next month to gather all the information together and then make a motion and then decide? what
Yes,
to do?
because you're not going to award the road bid package until
Right.
June 16th. And then by the time whoever you award it to gets all their ducks in a row and are ready to do anything, it's going to be, later, sometime in July. So, we'll have some time to, for Jim to start on some of those so he could be a step ahead of the paver.
Okay, because does he have to order the pipe? Is that going to take up a lot of time?
Jeff looked into that today. We probably will just order the pipe so we have it in case there's lead time involved with that. We don't want to be held up because we can't get the pipe. And right now, a lot of construction material is back
Hard
ordered,
to get, right.
hard to get. So we're going to order that.
Do we have to vote on that, or, I mean, I don't know what the rules are. Can we just
Now,
say go?
it's $6,500. I mean, Mark, if you answer that, I mean, I think we can just order it unless
Well,
somebody has.
Let me just re-emphasize the comment that we need to have Ron recalculate the required size of that pipe and not just replace it in kind. So that's right
We're
on the
not ready.
critical path.
Well,
So we're not
John,
ready to order anything yet. You have some work to
well,
do.
after Friday, we will know, but also that pipe is smoother. So he said even replacing it with the same size, it will carry a larger volume of water.
I would let the engineer make the calculation and the recommendation. I'm not
Well,
sure.
he will on
Something like
Friday.
that.
He will. We're not going to order it until we get it.
All right, so Joan, you're not worried, we don't need to make a motion today to say, yes, you have the okay to order the pipe. We can wait to gather more information and then,
Donna,
Figure it out.
you can if you want to. Mark,
Mary,
is
what do
it-
you want to do? Oh, I can't hear you.
Mary, we can't hear you at all. There's no volume.
It comes and goes, apparently.
This is awful. I feel so bad for her.
But
Okay.
let's wait until Friday, and Ron and Jeff and you, Joan, and then we can make a decision. Or actually, you can make a decision, Joan, you and Jeff, because it's really not, amount of money doesn't fall within a board decision. So
Okay.
let's wait until Friday, and you will keep us updated. I know.
Right. And whatever Ron says, we will order so that we make sure it's there in a timely manner.
And it's the correct size.
Just one comment on the cost. The cost of the material right now is estimated at $6,800. That's just for the pipe. So you need stone and other materials. This is probably going to be a $10,000 to $15,000 project, I guess.
But again, that will be part of what Jim will provide for us when he goes through all the different projects and gets us his estimates.
I'm just trying to put a reference number on it for the rest of the board so they have an understanding of what the cost could be.
Okay. All right. I mean, we have to do it, and we may have to rethink something else that we're doing, but we don't have a choice. We have to do it. So.
Well, the stormwater projects are allowed by the COVID relief funds. So we can do,
There is money to work with. Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right.
Should we move on to Appleton Road? 3327 Appleton Road update, including lot line adjustments, status, and discussion. I think, Mark, maybe you're the best person to lead this.
Good evening, Nancy. This has been an ongoing matter for quite some time. And as the board knows, we're currently in litigation. We have two actively pending matters. There's a mandamus action that was filed with the Court of Common Pleas about 2 months ago. And then we have an appeal of a decision that the board made after its last meeting concerning the denial of the certificate of appropriateness.
Oh, sorry, Mark, can I ask you a question just about that? So that appeal, when will that go? Will that go to court, or what's the next step with that?
Well, that was just, I was just given notice of that today.
Okay.
That is an appeal that will ultimately be heard by a judge. We have to file the record in the case, meaning that the evidence that the board looked at in making its decision. Once the record is up for the court, then we'll have a briefing schedule and then ultimately an argument in front of a judge. And then a judge will have basically as much time as he or she needs to make a decision. So there's really no specific time frame in mind. I'd say it would play out over the next 6 to 10 months.
Thank you.
We've had we have had offers to negotiate certain aspects of a lot line change plan that was the subject of an approval several years ago, and issues related to the possible settlement of that litigation. I'm not sure what aspect the board wants to discuss tonight. Certainly, if you wanted to discuss any legal issues, we could do that in executive session, but I can answer any questions that anyone might have that wouldn't violate any legal privilege.
Well, Mark, I just have one question. Would it make sense to hold off on any decision on that until the judge decides whether the building, decides the appeal on what the status of the building should be? Because that will certainly change the course of what we may do.
Nancy, I guess when you say hold off on any decision, what decision?
Signing the lot line plans or not.
Well, that's something that we can discuss, in an executive session. The board has made it has made a decision not to sign that.
No, we
And
didn't. No.
well, I mean,
no.
there was no decision to sign it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
So,
that's what we'd like to talk about tonight. So, I mean, John, I don't know if you want to start or our stuff, because there is concern.
We received a memo this afternoon about noontime related to this issue. And there were a set of proposed conditions in there for approval of lot line. And none of those issues except paragraph 3E existed at the time the lot line adjustment was approved by the Board of Supervisors June 21st, 2017, 4 years ago. So there was some language in Note 11 that was incredibly difficult to understand and comprehend. And I've reread this thing many times and have some following conclusion is that the applicant clearly indicated that he plans to develop Lot B separately from A. That's the only thing I could conclude from all that language.
Did he also agree that he would use the proceeds from selling Lot 4 to fix the home on Appleton?
I didn't see that in the memo today.
No, and that wasn't in the discussion when we approved the lot line change.
Lot line change is an issue because the board approved it 4 years ago and it's been held up for some unspecified reasons.
Well, my understanding is that it was a conditional approval, and Mark has been waiting for Mr. DeFrancesco, his lawyer, to provide the information required. And Mark, maybe you can speak to that.
yeah, we were only provided the easement agreements that were subject to that approval, I think in October of 2020. So, I mean, it was the situation for at least 3 years. I guess the applicant had not complied with a condition. And then subsequently, since that time, we were involved in numerous enforcement actions related to the building at 3327 Appleton. And then the subject, obviously, after, the demolition permit, the subject of the certificate of appropriateness, which was reviewed and a decision was made at the last meeting.
All right.
So
I'd like to suggest that we have the discussion in executive session because there are some legal components that aren't ready to be discussed in public.
Yeah, I disagree. So,
I have a comment and a path forward. I have some comments and a proposed action for the board. I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors unconditionally sign the lot line adjustment for Appleton Glen. This action was approved by the board June 21st, 2017, 4 years ago, with none of the conditions that are being put out there right now. Do I hear a second?
yeah, I'll second that. And I do want to comment. So I want to be clear. There's multiple issues going on here, and I don't want to take away from what the work Mark is doing in terms of the multiple lawsuits, particularly the last one we just found out about today regarding the vote on the demolition of the property. I stand by my vote, and I think that's a separate issue. So that is not why I'm having my conversation right now.
Yeah,
But I do think the public needs to be aware that we have already spent over $62,000 on the first lawsuit and anything else that's been going on regarding this property. And I just would like the board to consider, does it make sense to just sign the lot line change and get that lawsuit off our plate? So we're not spending money to defend that, because I did sign it, and so did John, and there were no strings attached to that. And then there are going to be other lawsuits, and we're going to have to make a decision as a board what we do there. But just something for the board to consider. Just, as I said, John and I have already agreed to sign this, and I don't even know how we vote on something that the board has already agreed to sign 4 years ago. I don't know why Wayne has to wait for us to do it again. But Mark, help us through this. But I would like to get this off our plate. I would like to deal with this lot line change, follow through on what we said we were going to do in 2017, and then spend our legal money and energy dealing with the other issues that are associated with this property.
Donna, I have some discussion of why I made the motion. And one would be to eliminate the complaint in Mandus and the associated legal costs required to defend it. Number two, using the refusal to sign the lot line adjustment has not provided the leverage in resolving the disposition of the building. And third, we want to stop the spiraling legal costs by holding a position which we cannot prevail. As Donna indicated, we've already got $62,200 of unrecoverable legal costs. I think it's time to cut the losses, get this piece out of the discussion. Didn't want to talk about the building disposition in as we go on, but I think this issue is not something we're going to prevail on. And as long as it lays out there, it'll continue developing legal costs for us. That's the point. The other point is the connection between the lot line adjustment and the original land development plan that's being asserted is really tenuous and weak. Common sense and street smart say this is not a winner. Here are my comments.
So Mary and Nancy, Mark, just if you could comment, that would be helpful.
I'm sorry, Donna, did you want me to comment?
Somebody should comment. Maybe you can start it off, Mark, but I think it's, you heard from two board members. We're only two board members. It's important that we understand how everybody else feels. And maybe, Mark, you may want to comment on what we said. I don't know. Somebody has to say something.
Well, I don't think there's a formal vote that would be necessary. It would simply be signing and executing a plan and giving it over to the property owner. So I don't think the board would have to act. That was the decision the board wanted to make. And there were 3 members that wanted to do that. Presumably that could be done.
Well, there's an active motion on the board, a seconded action motion. So we need to withdraw it or vote on it.
So I have a question. As I understand, when the board at the time signed the original lot line change, it was implied that there were some conditions on that original agreement that was implied, right? So there was part of the plan was that had the original house. Now, you guys may have not have been explicit when you said you would agree with the lot line change, but the documents that I've been looking at have a list of here's all of the things that need to get done with this property, and these are going to happen. That's why we're signing these. We've previously agreed to this plan. That's why we're going to sign this lot line change, because the assumption was that the previous plan was going to be acted upon, right? And where we are now is none of that was done, but because it's now expensive, we're going to give this person what he wants. And my take on this is, if you're going to take this position, you might as well have a second resolution to disband the HARB in our historic district. Because what you're telling people is, you get to do what you want. If you can cost the township enough money, you get to do what you want. So the cost to do what you want, the cost to demolish a building in Franklin Township is $62,000. That's what you're saying. So you might as well have a second, John or Donna, you might as well have a second motion to demolish our historic district and have no historic rules. And David, you don't need to hold any developers accountable for anything, because it's simply, we as a township have decided it's too expensive to fight back against corruption, right? That's what you're saying. It's too expensive.
I disagree with that, David. Let me clarify it. Is that the issue is related to this lot line change, not the overall disposition of the building. That still needs to be resolved. But this issue here is costing us money, and I don't think that's getting us anywhere. We need to get it off the table and stop the bleeding.
So David, I'll just repeat what John said. We were very clear. We're not saying go demolish the building. We're not saying go fight the lawsuit that we just found out about today. That's going to cost us money, but we made that. I think we all did, right? We made our vote in good conscience based on understanding what the facts were as presented to us at the meeting. So we made that decision, and we voted 4-0 to say, no, you cannot demolish the building. So I stand by that, and that's gonna be expensive, and I'm not saying that we should fold. What I am saying is that in 2017, this issue was presented to us. It was presented to us as a separate matter of doing a lot line change that created lot line B as a parcel separate from lot line A. There was no discussion about any other conditions. There was no discussion about what's being done on the Appleton property. None of that was there. It was presented as, this is simple, this is easy. The gentleman, the owners of the trust would like to have this lot line change. The PC agreed to it. And we did it.
Why didn't you guys sign it?
Sorry? I don't know. To tell you the truth, Nancy, I had no idea it was never executed. I assumed it was.
Yeah,
So
here's the explanation.
Like
for that.
I think I did
Mark, let me
explain
finish this here. Let me respond to that. The board approved that lot. First off, the PC reviewed that in infinite detail, very detailed. I attended all their meetings. It came to the board. There were some questions about and the board answered those questions. We approved it. The fact, and it was such a routine thing, we would probably grant that to just any property owner in the township if they had presented the situation that was presented. So we approved it. We walked out of that meeting fully expected that our wishes would have been executed. And we really lost the fact that the plans were never brought back to the board for signature. It was such a routine issue that it wasn't something we thought about following up on. But here we find that the administration and the attorneys have held the approval, and we only found out recently that wasn't brought to our attention to be signed. So that's the way I characterize it. You may have, others may have other comments, but that's the way I characterize it. And I was there.
John, I have a comment. I hope you can hear me. I believe.
I can't hear you.
I'm trying. Can you hear me now? Anybody?
No, we can't hear you, Mary. You got to do something to
Your
get the
volume
volume up.
down.
can she call in? Is there any way to get her on the phone?
So Mark, while we're waiting for Mary, one of the questions that we had around the original Wilkinson plan, development plan, the documents that I've read, and as I understand them, is that the approved lot line change, the language in there says that the original Wilkinson plan, it implies that it approves the original Wilkinson plan.
No.
I don't see that in there. We don't see that language.
Dave, and you're right. The only reason for the lot line change plan is the desire for the applicant to move forward with the subdivision plan.
Right.
But so that they can actually reconfigure one of the existing lots. The property right now is comprised of two parcels. And like a puzzle, if you reconfigure the one small lot, I think it's 1.5 acres, so that it fits into the ultimate puzzle of the conditionally approved subdivision plan, then that would allow the applicant or the property owner, Mr. DeFrancesco, to sell that off as an individual parcel and generate income from that sale, and then not still be able to develop the subdivision, at some point in the future. The reason why the subdivision wasn't signed and filed immediately was that it was subject to easements. If Mr. DeFrancesco simply sold it off, he wouldn't have control of it anymore. And there's a driveway that's the subject of that subdivision that goes over that piece of ground, that new piece of ground, that he wouldn't have control over. So he wouldn't be able to do the subdivision anymore.
I'm not sure that's correct, Mark, because there was a lot of discussion by the PC and the board to make sure that he had access to the other property once the lot B was subdivided off. I remember that discussion. I don't think I can get involved in the details, but I remember a lot of discussion about that right away and the width of it and some other issues that that was acceptable to the PC and the board at the time.
Yeah, and as long as the rights are reserved when that property is sold, then there's still a potential to develop the subdivision. The issue then becomes Mr. DeFrancesco wants to, is actively making an effort. I mean, the board adjudicated the certificate of appropriateness at the last meeting, and that's going to be appealed to the Court of Common Pleas concerning the historic dwelling. And there are plan notes. That plan was specifically approved. And one of the requirements was that dwelling was to remain. And there was a list of improvements that were to be made to that dwelling. So once you eliminate that dwelling, then you can't comply with that plan, and you have to start over again.
So
we're not proposing.
I'd like to add my 2 cents now.
Yeah, I guess the board could just approve it, could allow everything to go through, the building and and the lot line change plan, and then Mr. DeFrancesco wouldn't have a plan. There'd be no plan anymore. You'd have to start over again. I mean,
there's one other relevant issue that the board engaged during that lot line discussion is that Mr. DeFrancesco, at that time had a buyer for that property. And the buyer was extremely anxious to buy that property. He was sitting there during the meetings, both the planning commission and the board meetings. Now, I don't know what happened with that deal, but that was one of the motivations at that point to get the lot line moving expeditiously, because he did have a sale in hand. I'm not sure that we're not proposing to remove the property demo 3327. This issue is we're trying to reduce our legal costs by eliminating this one part of a legal action that's costing us money.
Right. I just like to provide my perspective, which is when Mr. DeFrancesco submitted a COA for demolition, he essentially said, I'm not interested in complying with your subdivision plan, because that's clearly in it. I think when we allow developers to simply choose which sections of a subdivision plan they would like to comply with, then we really have lost all control, and we've lost why we were elected. There are other developers that we have not given them that opportunity to do so because they haven't tried to intimidate us. To me, our job is to look at what was legally committed to. And when, if he hadn't submitted that, I would have been much more interested than he's saying 2 different things. He's saying, I'm not interested in your subdivision plan, and I want you to approve something where I know I'm not going to be held to your plan.
And
so to me, they're conflicting, and I'm not interested in supporting that.
And I think, and just to add to that, Nancy, we've asked him to do some pretty basic things in compliance with that subdivision plan. We didn't ask him to refurbish the entire building, right? We asked him to remove the demolition permit. We asked him to fix a window, and he said, no, sue me, right? And now we're saying, okay, well, while he's suing us for this, we'll give him another thing and another, and so he's going to cost us money, because he's already said to us in some of his filings, look, I don't even want to follow specific, and he's outlined them. I don't want this in the original subdivision plan. I'm going to tear the house down. I'm going to, And so I guess I'm agreeing with Nancy here that we're trying to deal with somebody in a reasonable way. His response has been unreasonable, and now we're kind of getting cold feet, right?
All right, listen, I'm not trying to defend Mr. DeFrancesco. I'm just talking about timely issues. At the time that this thing was approved by the board in 2017, none of these conditions existed. So you're taking contemporary issues that developed later.
John,
trying to impact the decision was made 4 years ago.
You can't talk over people. You just made a misstatement. Those conditions were clearly documented in 2009. So you want to give him a mulligan on that? Do you want to give him a mulligan on trails? Do you want to give him a mulligan on everything? Then you simply don't need to be a supervisor, because then he can do whatever the heck he wants.
I think those conditions are weak and tenuous, and I just don't think they can stand up.
Well, that's up to you,
So
John.
we have
Okay,
we have our
can I
attorney.
stop everybody for a moment, and can you hear me now?
Is Barry here?
I went out and came back in. Can you hear me?
No.
Mary, we just can't hear you, and I so wish we could. Is there something in front of your speaker? Because sometimes you do become more clear.
No. I have my IT on the phone, so let's see if I can.
Mary,
Problem.
in your meeting book, there's a sheet that gives you a phone number to call in. So you could still be video and call in if you want
Good
to.
idea,
All right.
Jim.
So we have our attorney here with us, and he's been advising us all along. And John made some legal statements about our likelihood of success. Mark, do you feel that do you agree with John's statement that this is a fool's errand?
I didn't say that. I just.
I wouldn't advise the board to take a position that I don't believe I could support in court. If you wanted to talk about it privately, we can talk about the merits of the case as you're able to get advice from legal counsel in an executive session. But that's my answer, Dave. I wouldn't suggest, or I wouldn't advise the township to do anything that I didn't think I could support.
Thank you. And I think
And really we're trying, I'm sorry, Dave, what we're trying to do is eliminate a situation where I think Nancy may have said it most aptly. The applicant is going down a path where ultimately compliance cannot be, physically, he can't comply anymore with the plan. I mean, the only reason why the lot line change plan, the puzzle piece, needs to be fit into the plan is if you want to proceed with the plan, and the plan requires the house to remain clearly, and certain have to be taken related to the house. There's a 3 or 4 page letter that details all of the requirements that you need to move forward with in order to subdivide those 4 lots off and build 3 new homes. And the actions of the trust contravene a desire to move forward with that plan. So either the applicant wants to move forward with a plan and all the actions are moving in the same direction. Once you start making piecemeal decisions, then we're going to set ourselves up for a situation that we're going to have to deal with, an applicant that's not going to be able to satisfy the conditions of an approved plan.
Well, I mean, I think I'll just sum up. I'm done, I think, talking. So I'll just sum up my feelings. My feelings haven't really changed. I wasn't on the board that approved this lot line change. I am on the board now, and I know what the current real world conditions are. And so that's all you can do is deal with what's in front of you now, not what was in front of you 4 years ago. So I don't feel compelled to agree with the board decision from 4 years ago.
Mary McVeigh.
Mark,
And
Join the meeting.
comment on that.
I was on a roll too. And so I think, so anyway, to finish my thought is, it seems like there's a lot of moving parts. I just read an email from Wayne's representation before the meeting. I don't think we can have another conversation unless we start talking about these added details. And I don't think that we can talk about them in an open meeting, because this is an active negotiation. So I still think I need some more information to kind of understand where we are with the new information.
I agree.
Mark, I'd like you to address David's position that he can't vote on this thing because he wasn't on the board before. I think if that situation would hold up, then just anything that previous boards engaged or approved would be at risk. I just think,
No. The difference, John, is
I don't see the difference, David. I apologize.
So John, the difference is I'm being asked to vote on something.
There's no vote.
I'm being asked to approve something.
There is no vote. It's already been approved.
So then why are we having a conversation? That's what I don't. Again, it goes back to you're asking me, you're asking me to do something. You need me to
I'm
do
asking
something.
you to sign it. I'm not asking you to approve, but you would be asked to sign it, and that's what you're saying you will not do. So that's where you're coming from, David.
Wait, that's approval, right? That's approval.
Well, you're signing something
I
that's already approved.
asked you to sign the documents, not approve it. It's already been approved.
If it had been approved, it would have been signed.
Yeah, if it was approved and acted upon, the original members would have done it. So I'm.
Should have been, right, exactly. That's why we're, can I just make one comment? I just want to thank you for having this conversation, because I wanted the public to hear what was going on without getting in to the nitty-gritty of the negotiation. So the public now knows, based on this, and we'll capture it in the minutes, that there are 2 lawsuits, that there is, one has to do with lot line change from years ago, one has to do with what we just voted upon last week. They're aware that we have 2 lawsuits ongoing, and that there is money associated with. So I know we can't solve any of it today, and I didn't really expect us to, but I did want to have the public aware of it. And now we can take it back to executive session. We'll continue to have those comments and have our conversations with our council. But I really thought it was important, I think, John, you did too, that the public was aware of it and that they understand what we're doing. And I hope they contact us if they feel one way or the other. I personally would like to hear your feedback, but I just think it was time for them to know what was going on. So thank you for allowing us to have that conversation. And I hope we get Mary back.
Well,
Can you
just for
hear me
your
now? I'm on
information,
the chat.
there is some public awareness to this thing. I did speak to a number of people, approached me at the polls yesterday asking about this thing. So it's not unknown out in the realm here. So
Right. Another person who can help is actually Kathy, because the comprehensive plan was a really good way. We got a lot of input from the public on that. And one of the questions was about preserving our historic district and making a walkable community. I think we got a lot of support for that. So at this point, that's the only data point I have. I'm not sure it's helpful just to have word of mouth. He said this, she said that. We do have actual responses from community members saying they absolutely value having this historic district respected and preserved. And again, it was legally agreed to. So this isn't something that we're just pushing on someone. This person legally agreed to this. So if we start ignoring people's legal commitments in subdivision plans, I'm not really sure what our value is.
We should try to get Mary. I know she's out there. We could try.
Donna, she's on with her.
On my phone. Can anybody hear me?
Well, wait, your phone's on mute. Donna, how do you unmute a phone?
I asked you to do it.
I can't.
I still can't hear her.
Her phone is on mute also.
I can participate.
I can hear her. I can hear her vaguely.
Mary, just call me and I'll put you on speaker.
Call you and you'll put me on speaker.
Oh, I can kind of hear you.
That's better.
Okay, I'll talk loud. How's
Okay,
that?
great.
Good.
Okay. Well, I guess this issue has to move to an executive session, or we could go on all night about this. We have differing opinions. So can we decide that we'll go to an executive session? Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
Well, you have a motion on the board, a seconded motion on the table. You need to deal with it.
I think you might want to remove that. I think we need to have an executive session before any of us can speak
Okay.
with any form of knowledge about what we're talking about.
All in favor, say aye.
To remove the resolution? Is that what we're voting on?
No, John wants to vote on whether to approve the lot line plan.
Okay, put the vote out there, John.
Okay, the motion's already made, so we've had a lot of discussion, so all in favor, say aye. I have an,
So me too, John. I think we should sign it.
all in favor, say, all opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Hey,
Hey,
Okay, the motion fails 3-0 or 2-3.
Okay.
I think maybe we should move on at this point and to take Mary's
Yeah,
suggestion in an executive session.
yeah, and the next item is John about the Hess Mill Bridge. But John, before you talk anything about it, I don't know what you have for an update, I would like to make a comment about the work Servpro did on getting that graffiti off our bridge. They did an excellent job. And I think Joan and Jeff made an excellent decision going with them to remove it. And I also would like to, at some point, send a letter to Servpro about the good work they gave us. What company doesn't want that in their file?
Thank you so much. What a great point. And I mean, when you look at that graffiti, they did a tremendous job.
Tremendous.
Thank you, Jeff and Joan, for researching it and proposing a really good solution.
I agree.
All right, John, any other comments on Hess Mill?
Yeah, an update on the fact that the graffiti was removed. I don't remember what the exact cost was, Joan. What did we put in that?
$4,007, I believe.
Okay. The process was some chemical process with pressure washing. And that's not the preferred process, not the process we selected early on. I did some research very early on YouTube, and that particular method does not remove the graffiti completely. If you look at the photos, they still have a shadow just the way all the YouTube videos did. If you remember one of the board meetings, I think it was back in the April meeting, there was a suggestion for an alternate method, which involved two coatings. There's a coating applied to cover the graffiti and another up top coating that's graffiti resistant that allows subsequent graffiti to be removed easily. That would be the preferred solution, because now we've set ourselves up for another reapplication of the graffiti on bare concrete.
Well, John, let me ask you this. Even if we painted it, do you not think graffiti artists would come back? Painting has something to do with it.
You didn't hear what I said. The second coating that you apply is a graffiti resistant coating that makes it much easier to remove the graffiti. Right now, you got bare concrete that's been scarred by pressure washing, which will probably allow the graffiti to be more effectively attached to it. So I think it was the wrong process.
But John, I believe this graffiti coating paint is not really that cost effective. That if you do the research of cities and towns that have used this, they don't feel it's cost effective. So I guess it's a mess what they do. But I do think, John, give credit to Joan and Jeff. They did extensive research, and our bridge looks brand new again. Come on, admit it.
They worked hard, but they selected the wrong process. You go back to the meeting book in April and read that process. That's the process that most people recommend.
The Churchill Bridge,
You're not
the
being honest.
Churchill Road Bridge has graffiti that was covered up with paint by PennDOT. Go take a look at that bridge and see what's happening to the paint.
Okay, are there any more comments on Hess Mill Bridge, or can we move on?
I just want to comment on the legal update that Max has reached out to the lieutenant and the trooper who are handling that case to move ahead with the filing the charges against the artist.
Okay.
I think that was the appropriate decision, because I think that's the only way that would guarantee that the township would be reimbursed for these costs.
Well, and Joan, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, our council has relayed the board's feeling to the state police, who will go to the court, and they will make the decision. It's out of our hands now.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's out of our hands anyway. I'm not sure that we can dictate prosecution, but I think the
We
direction
can't.
is
The
appropriate.
attorney told us that, but we can make a recommendation and they take that into consideration. And that's where we are. Okay. The next item, if everybody's done with Hess Mill, we're going to move on to Lexington Pointe, an update. And I believe everything is the same. There's nothing to be updated. Mark, if you know something I don't know, jump in there. Otherwise, we'll move on.
We have some more recent updates. The township's consultants have have fully reviewed their plan, and we do have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with them to review the status of where they are. They still need to get the agreement that the board approved back in the fall fully together, but I understand from Stan Corbett that the process is moving forward. So,
Mark, who do you have a meeting with? Do you have a meeting with ACOM, or do you have a meeting with the Lexington Pointe?
we have a meeting with ACOM and a representative of Lexington Pointe just to discuss where they are in the process.
Yeah, because I would expect that they would be pretty excited about moving forward with the housing market the way it is, that they would want to push this. So is that the sense you get, that they're anxious to move things forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure the sentiment, Donna, but I mean, they still have, it's still going to take quite a bit of work for them to get done. And I'm not sure if they're going to be building houses, in the next couple months, but certainly they're moving the process ahead.
Okay, all right, well, keep us informed. I think this is going to maybe really actually happen.
There is another factor that could be slowing this process down, is the cost of materials has drastically increased. And I did a little research in Lowe's about a week ago. Building materials, a standard 2x4 8-foot stud, which normally sells for $2.50, was $9.32. A piece of $18 plywood is now $50. So an enormous increase in material costs. And these are basic building materials for houses. I'm not sure how that's going to impact them, but I'm sure that's not going to make them move faster.
And this is just an example of where our solicitor has been so helpful in making sure that our developer follows the agreed commitments. So it's really important that we're consistent and we ask each developer to follow whatever they committed to.
Oh, I'm satisfied with the way we've been managing. I think it's perfectly managed. I just wanted to make the point about the building costs could be an inhibiting factor for him going forward right now.
I just wanted to compare, we have to treat all developers consistently and not pick and choose which ones can follow our subdivision plans and which ones don't have to.
Well, Nancy, I didn't profess any special treatment. I just made an observation about material costs.
Right. Thanks, John.
All right, Donna, I think we can move on from Lexington Pointe.
I'd be happy to, Mary. It's the Appleton grant extension. We've done this before, so hopefully this will be easy. I make a motion for the Board of Supervisors to accept the extension for the Able subdivision until October 20th, 2021. Can I have a second, please?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Is that John? I think it was John. And any discussion?
I think we've voted on this about 4 times since I've been.
Every 6 months.
Donna, real quick, can you just explain to the residents what this is about and why we do it?
So we do it to keep it, so maybe Joe can explain it for better than, but my understanding is we have to keep on doing this and so that when the gentleman actually decides to do something with the property, this is still in place as opposed to having them start all over again. Yeah. So is that why we do it, Joe? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because if he didn't grant the extension, the board would have to act on it. So right now, he doesn't want to lose all the money he has invested to date. So that's why he grants the extension, so that we'll keep it open and move it along.
Can you just remind us what the original plan is? I don't think anyone remembers at this point.
No.
It's up on, Jeff, you need to help me with the roads. I'm not good with that. What's the road that's off of?
Huntville Lane.
Huntville Lane, yes. Mr. Abel owns some ground back there, and it's just subdivided off into a few lots. And just so you know, a realtor has reached out to Jeff Fogels about someone wanting to buy that land, because he has been inquiring about the subdivision plan that was that we're granting the extension for. And right now, it has only been reviewed by the PC and recommended that the board approve it, but it never went to the board yet.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, that's good. So we may actually have some action on it, but that's good. All right. So like I said, we just keep it active so the gentleman can proceed if the right offer comes along. So that was a good question, David. We just keep on doing it, so it was good to make sure the public knows. All right, David, I'll turn it over to you. I think you're
No, you
next.
didn't vote.
Oh, we didn't vote. I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Okay, great. So the motion passes 5-0.
Okay. All right, so I have the next three. These all have to do with Crossan Park. First is a Crossan Park yoga instructor request. I make a motion for the Board of Supervisors to accept the request from Tracy Machalek, a certified insured yoga instructor, to host a yoga class once a week on a donation-only basis for the public. Can I get a second?
Second it.
That's seconded by Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, David, who's actually paying her? This by the clients that engage it?
Yeah, this would be by the clients who engage with Tracy. And what she says here that it's by donation, so people can come and donate money.
Okay, so the township isn't involved in compensation. I understand our insurance has accepted it. So
Yes.
I don't think there's any issue then.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0. The next one is a Meadow request. I make a motion for the Board of Supervisors to accept the proposal to modify 1.3 acres of grass south of the Healing Gardens into a meadow. Can I get seconded there?
I'll second that.
Oh, go ahead,
Okay,
Mary.
seconded by Mary. Any discussion?
Yeah,
I'd like to discuss this one. I go back and forth. I know at AstraZeneca where I work, they let some of the ground go to quote unquote a meadow, and it looked like nobody cared. It looked like looked like nobody wanted to mow the lawn. And I know here we have a buffer area, but it just seems like the wrong place for a meadow. I can see having another part of the park, but I think there's some value to being able to have an area that you can walk on and not have vines.
Yeah.
Well, there's a paved path, and I don't know if you've been there, Donna, but it looks beautiful. I was just there a couple days ago. It doesn't
It's
look.
not there, no. It's not a meadow yet. It's just, it's ground. The idea would be to let it grow up.
Yeah, there's no meadow there yet.
Been cut yet, Joan and Jeff?
It's grass now, Nancy.
Grass. I like grass.
Yeah,
I know this is bigger than me. I just have an opinion, but I would, if the board should decide to go this way, I would just ask that maybe you do it for a year and then we come back and look at it again. But like I said, I'm leery of it. I've seen it happen in too many places where it looks like, I don't know if this is really the right location, but if you decide that you guys have the majority, if you decide to do it, maybe limit it to a year.
Can I ask a question? Greg Sachs, are you still on the meeting?
Yes.
Yep, I'm
You are.
here.
Okay, can you speak to this issue
Yeah.
on the board?
So, I mean, it's basically going to be mowed once a year. So, vines or, trees, shrubs, any of that kind of stuff will be cut back every year. The goal is to keep it basically like a grassland. And there's you already mentioned the buffer, but I want to be clear that we're also, with this meadow, we would still leave a large area near the driveway. This area is going to be roughly, I measured it out to be about 50 feet by 250 feet, which is directly next to the entrance driveway. So that would still leave plenty of space for some of the concerns that came up were like excess parking, people, throwing a ball or throwing a Frisbee. So all that kind of stuff would still, I think, in my opinion, would still be doable. But yeah, I mean, vines, you're not going to see any vines. It's basically just going to be taller grass. And, the goal is, top goal, I would say, would be storm water management. You know, that when you keep a grass mowed, it doesn't hold water very well at all. It's basically as close to pavement when you keep it mowed that way. So when you, what's that?
It doesn't have to be at the, you know, back into the ground. But can people, like, will people be able to walk on it and or play frisbee or play ball when it's not mowed for a year? Will they or like will people have access?
Yeah, I think, I mean, once it's when that mow comes through, and I'm assuming we would do it in line with the other meadows, which is in August. It would definitely be, you know, it'd be accessible for after that mow, and basically, I mean, might get a little bit more growth between that mow and fall, but yeah, it would definitely be accessible. I would also, I mean, another thought is we could put, you know, a path through there for people to access. And also, you know, there's ideas of a lot of times they install signage that kind of explains what's happening here versus people just thinking that you don't care about this section.
And Greg, the park that would be mowed, it's 50 feet wide, right? That's pretty wide. And
yeah, it's 50 feet wide by 250 feet. And there was another section that was 40 feet by 125 feet. So
in our meeting book, do we have, just to show people what we're talking about, I'm looking for the map here in our meeting book, if it is here.
Well, and while you're looking for that, Dave,
okay, go ahead.
Isn't, Greg, you can explain it, I'm sure, but grass has very short roots. So when it rains, it doesn't really retain any stormwater. Whereas if you have a meadow that gets perennial plants and they get deep roots and they retain water. I mean, not like a tree, but a lot better than grass.
Yeah,
so what's your process to install this thing? What do you actually have to do step by step to get this?
I mean, the recommendation is basically to let it grow, see what happens, see what plants grow there. I mean, there's definitely better ways to install meadows if you want to actually specify what kind of native species and grass species, but then you're talking about added cost and installation and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so you're just gonna let the stuff that's there grow, right?
Yeah, the goal is, to let it grow, see what comes up. You know, I'd keep an eye on it. So, you know, we're not going to just let an invasive species just completely take over a spot. And that's
the invasive species are already there. Just keep
they're all over the park.
As soon as you let
everywhere. But Greg, am I right?
So guys, hold on. Just before we go, I'm trying to get to show my screen. Joan, if you can give me permission, I can show people what area Greg's talking about.
Go ahead, Dave.
All right, thank you very much. And there we go. So let's see. You guys can see my screen now?
Yeah.
Can you see my pointer?
Yeah.
Okay. So the area where, just to orient everybody, here's Parsons Road. Here's the entrance to the park. Here's the healing garden that is one project that's under construction, tennis courts. And the area that Greg is talking about is this area back here. Right here.
Right.
I think it comes further front. Yeah, I think it goes much further up. I mean, there's a better picture in the book. Maybe you don't have it. That has it all, has a line.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is. There we go. Here's the better picture.
There you go.
So here's my comment in about this, and my concern is I've observed, and I don't know about this area back here, but in this area here, people definitely use this open space. They use it for t-ball practice. So I see kids out there playing here. I honestly can't speak to back here, but I know that this is where kids will set up and do t-ball practice. So, and I've seen kids playing here. So I don't know if, Greg, it makes sense if we're going to try this for a year, if you can see it, to just, keep it mowed here and then just have an area that keeps this big open space open.
Yeah, I mean, that's an option.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's my concern. I'm not so much about the stormwater, which I know we should think about, but more about, we need to have people have access to the park, and people do different things in different parts of the park, and this is a big open area, and maybe we do half the space. I don't know, but I hear you. I would like to be able to walk my granddaughter and let her be able to play and run around and do whatever it is kids do.
Can I ask a question just to give us perspective? How much of the park is mowed? Is it 25%, 10%? And then how much how much is already mowed? So is there lots of area already for people to use? It looks to me like it's about half the park is mowed and
Well, a lot of it, Nancy, is the playing fields. Because in the lower part of the park is already in Meadow.
Right.
Just agreed to that last 2 meetings ago. We agreed to,
Right.
and that was a recommendation from the pro to.
There are lots of spots for people to use that are mown. And I mean, Greg, you may have a better perspective, but to me, I like, Donna, where you started, which is, so we try it. If it doesn't work, we cut it. It's not a big decision, really.
Yeah.
If we don't like it by August, we cut it. We just cut it whenever we want to cut it.
Right, and I mean, it's all, it's all adjustable. This isn't anything that's set in stone. I mean, I would like to point out that the elevation in the bottom right corner of the map, which is, I guess, the south side, is the highest elevation in the park. So any water that starts near the entrance right there is shooting down towards the park, towards the gardens. So, that area, it would be nice to keep it that meadow area to help hold the water. But, like I said, we could modify it and draw the line at the tennis courts.
Because one of the things that I think makes it easier, because when the little, and I'm thinking just in Little League, but I've also seen folks up here anyway, is that it's also the closest, it's very close to the parking lot.
Right,
so when you have a bunch of young kids, you're not trucking across those fields.
That's true.
So I think it would be like, I'm not opposed to the idea, so don't get that. And I think Donna and I are probably in the same boat where it's easy to do. It's not like we're installing anything. So what we could do is start like, here and do this, just leave this bottom square open. I understand what you're saying about the highest part, but leave this bottom square open, do the rest of it as the meadow, and see if we like it or not. If this area ends up not being used and people don't use it really, then we can expand it. If this turns into a disaster, we'll mow it,
And just another point, I think that the top part of the picture there, I think it starts to slope down there. So it's not as usable space for, versus the closer to the driveway there.
Yeah, so because this is pretty convenient for people.
Right. I see. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It might be nice.
I don't have any issue with it. I think overall the net cost to the township be less because there'll be less mowing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna mow it once a year. I guess the only issue I would have is if you're proposing to plant something, I would object to it. But the fact that you're just letting the species that exist there right now to grow, I don't have a problem with it. It won't look very well, I could tell you that. It'll look like a wilderness.
Well,
maybe that's what you're trying to.
Well, you stick a sign there.
A little background on
planting
something, because that could come up later, and that's a loser.
No, the meadows that aren't being cut, Don, I don't think you've
I'm
been.
not finished talking. I'm not finished talking. Be quiet for a minute and listen.
John, please don't speak like that. That's terrible.
I have some experience on our farm. We have about a 7-acre meadow, and we planted crops in there. And I could tell you it's a real struggle to maintain anything that's not there already, because the way it takes to get something new going, you have to kill everything with herbicide, replant, and then 3 years later, all the invasive species come back. So planting something is a real loser. I would not approve that. I've got direct experience to tell you that will not work. It'll be expensive for the township.
Well, John,
what you're doing right now is reducing the mowing. It's a lower cost for the township. I got one other comment about stormwater runoff, and I've stood out in these fields many times in the pouring down rain. Water doesn't run off a field. It soaks in. So you don't see trails of water running down the field. It soaks in.
I'd encourage you, John, just to go to Crossan right now. The fields are beautiful and they're not full of thorns or poison ivy or anything. They're just gorgeous. So it's fine, Dave. I'm fine with reducing the size of the field, but I do think it's kind of silly to act like something terrible is going to happen. Nothing terrible is going to happen. It's gorgeous, and let's just move on.
Yeah, I don't think anything terrible is going to happen.
And-
I just wanted to keep this space open for now because I know people.
And I agree, Dave. And I think if we do a modified version of what Greg is suggesting, that little section, and we try it, and if it come August, we'll say we like it, we don't like it. But there's an issue here no one is thinking about. The number of the insect decline in our world, and therefore the bird population decline in our world is huge, and it's going to affect every one of us. And every little bit we can do to help insects thrive, therefore birds thrive, and then let's go on from birds and get up to humans. It's Greg's talking about an acre, but every acre counts.
Right.
Pennsylvania's aiming for 10,000 acres. So if we can do this little, and the meadow works and it's not a problem, fine. So I think we should try it just for this season.
I'd love to see
That's my
volunteers
comment.
plant milkweed. That would be wonderful.
I think we're all pretty much in agreement here.
Guess what
It's just we're arguing over details.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I mean, I
let's
think
are we done with
good.
discussion? Then we can go to a vote.
Greg, could you
You're
explain?
gonna have to modify the motion, David. I think because it's gonna be it's gonna be a slightly
not
modified.
big.
Yeah, so I guess I will, let me go back to my motion slide here. I'll stop.
And also for only a year, so to be reviewed again or
Right.
something. You have to
Right, to be
Yeah.
reviewed at the end of the summer.
All right, let's go back up here. Where'd my motion sheet
While
go?
we're reading, could you explain the fundamental?
You're there.
There we
You're
go. All right, so I make a
Greg, could you
Meadow request.
explain the fundamental advantage of what you're doing? I really didn't get that out of your discussion. What's the objective of what you're doing here?
Yeah, the advantage, well, Mary touched on one, which is not a small one by any means. It's, adding wildlife pollinator habitat, adding biodiversity, which somebody mentioned adding milkweed. That could be easily done. Even, on my own property, I put one plant in the ground and I'm over 100 plants now. To reduce mowing costs
Are
for the
amazing.
township.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, milkweeds, they call it weed because it's aggressive, even though it's technically, I mean, that's not
Let's hold
necessarily
off
weed.
So let's just go with the cutting the lawn first.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's I guess so let me try it this way. I make a motion for the Board of Supervisors to accept a proposal to modify the area how do you want to say it? Behind the
Healing garden.
behind the tennis courts, excluding the area immediately south of the healing gardens, into a meadow. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I kind of seconded by.
I'll second
Well,
it.
Okay.
I think, Dave, you have to also say we're going to do that
Oh,
for this year and reevaluate it at the end of the season, at
Right,
the end of the growing season.
to be reevaluated. Yeah, to be reevaluated on a yearly basis by the board.
Okay.
Sounds good.
That's seconded by Nancy. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Motion carries 5-0.
All right.
All right, moving
Yeah.
on to the
Another good discussion. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
the third and final Crossan Park maintenance issue is I make a Crossan Park seal coat. I make a motion for the Board of Supervisors to accept the proposal from Superior Seal Coating for $7,650 and temporary mowing from Yardworks for $1,000 for a total project budget of $8,650. Can I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Mary. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss this one. So we talked about this before, and I'm not against the idea, I'm against the timing. So we talked about this before. We talked about it doing it next year before the teams came and our people started using the park, so it wouldn't be a problem. I can't justify in my brain why I would do it this year and pay $1,000 to mow the lawn so we have an alternate parking spot. Why not just wait to the spring of 2022? And in addition, we just found out today that we have a $16,000 piping project that, we're going to need money for that, and this would be another $8,600, almost $9,000 that we haven't really put in the budget. So, though Joan, you were up, just remembered, you told me that the other money would come out of stormwater. I just think it makes sense to wait till next year. I don't know why we would be putting people out trying to rush it in this year.
Well,
I
Donna,
agree with
can
the
I
points
comment
Donna
on that? I
made, and
think the parking
there's
lot
another issue
needs to be
related to
done.
what was it.
Hold on,
Excuse me, John, I started speaking.
Want to do this
John,
work when you have
John, thank you, but I started speaking.
facilities
Please,
down
wait
there
a
to
minute,
do
John.
the seal coating.
John, please let me speak. I don't speak that often. Let
I
me
spoke
speak.
first, you
Donna,
talked over
the
me.
parking lot needs to be done.
We
And
can't
whoever
hear you.
seal coats the parking lot, while they're there, will seal coat the basketball court at a very low cost. And we can't afford to do it this year, in particular because of the federal money that's coming to our township. Now, this $1,000 that's in there for yard works, it's an estimate. And what it is it's just an alternate way for the teams to get to the fields. But the games may be over when whoever's going to seal coat the parking lot comes in. In other words, what do you call it? Little League may be over. And
but somebody else may want to use it
that way.
So Joe, Mary, you talked about federal money. We can get that. We'll have access to that in 2022 also. There's several years that go with the federal money.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know why we can't wait to the spring. I mean, I think it should be done. I'm totally in agreement. It needs to be done. We should do the basketball court. We should do the parking lot. Totally agree. I just don't see why we spend whatever, $1,000, a little less, a little more. Just wait. And
well,
then
Donna, tell me this, Donna. How will it be easier in the spring? In other words, Little League starts up in the spring. So we're going to have to find some alternate way for them to get to the field and park the cars.
I'll turn to Joe. Whatever the
do
date
it
is
this year,
Sure.
they will know. They will know it's coming. They will, whatever we need to do.
I don't talk that often. I can't believe you all talk over me.
I'm sorry. I thought you asked me a question, Mary. I'm sorry.
Well, you can, but when I'm talking, please don't talk over me. I don't talk that often. I really don't.
No, I thought you asked me a
sit back
question.
and listen. What I'm saying is, Donna, what we need to consider is, can we do this summer after Little League is over? No big issue. Or do we do it next year and Little League is active and we have to do an alternate parking entrance to the park anyway? I think we can afford to do it this year. I think we should do it.
Can I answer your question?
Joan, is this a big deal?
No, I just want to answer the question. So, Joan, we had this conversation before. It was actually your recommendation to wait till next year that we would have. I don't know when would we do it, early spring or whatever. But we talked about this and we said that this made more sense to wait until 2022. That way you could alert whoever would be involved, and it would just be a smarter way of doing it. So I need to understand what's changed because I thought that's what we agreed.
Well, we had
Donna,
said
we
that
can't do it early spring. You can't pave early spring or seal coat.
Let Joan respond.
Go ahead, Joan.
We had said that if we plan to do it next year, when the leagues were working on their schedules, we could tell them that the park's going to be closed, 3 days or whatever it's going to take to do that and have it dry, so that we didn't have to worry about, alternate parking or alternate routes. That's what, we had considered.
Does this include the basketball court?
Yes.
Okay, well, I come to Crossan Park a lot. There's always someone on the basketball court. I have never seen anyone on the pickleball court. The tennis court is always full and there's always someone on the playground. So in my view, the public uses it a lot and I think we should just get it done.
Just get it done.
I think we should delay this thing. I think there's an issue with mobilization. When we get a contractor mobilized in that area that does oil and chip, that's when you do it because he's local. Right now, you're going to get a contractor to come in there and do a special job mobilizing a lot of equipment for a small area.
I don't know.
When would we have
John,
I'm not finished, Mary. You talked over me.
Nancy.
Get a contractor in the area who does that work. And he does this work in conjunction with some other road work you may do. You save a lot of money on mobilization. You're mobilizing a contractor for a little job with lots of equipment.
Well, John, are you finished? I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
want to talk
finished.
over
Go
you.
ahead. Go ahead, you can
If
talk.
you're finished, tar and chip or anything like that, Ron Reagan said no. He said seal coat it, and if we get the entrance road and the parking lot seal coated, we should have the basketball court done because it really will not cost us some money because of mobilization. Everything's already there. So that's why I'm saying I believe we should do it this year because particularly because of the federal money that we're going to get to use on projects that we thought would come out of our general fund. We have the money to do this, so why not do it? And at this time in the universe, our people really need the park. And they call the office all the time saying how much they appreciate our little park. So, and we're not talking a huge amount of money. I believe, okay, Jeff, you can jump in here. 16,000 for the road, the parking lot, and the basketball court, seal coating, correct?
So can we have Paul, let's have Paul talk about this. It's kind of his project that he developed. So I'd like to hear for what he has to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. But it's really entertaining listening to you guys guessing at everything that I'm about to present. If maybe I could just present, I could answer some of your questions.
Save us some time.
Yeah, save you some time. But it is entertaining. So, well, thank you for giving me a minute. Joan, can I share my screen?
Sure.
So can you all see map of the park? So this is all in your books, I assume, so I'll go rather quickly. Can you see the map?
Yes.
All right, so this is the park. North is to the left, unfortunately, but I think you can orient yourselves. The highlighting is all the paved surfaces in the park. We evaluated all of the surfaces. The yellow pavement here is what we're talking about. This is the original part of the park, the original entrance and original parking lot, and that was it. This later green roadway and 3 green parking lots were added later, so they're in better shape. So we're only proposing the yellow area and, as mentioned, the red basketball court. So the first comment I think was from Donna. So Donna, you have a good point about, we don't want to mow this area here for temporary parking, but unfortunately we have to because they don't do seal coating in January or February or March. They need the warmer months to do the seal coating. That's per the vendor. And it makes sense because it sticks better when the surface and the coating is warm. So they don't work in the winter. So we can't do it before the stuff starts growing. The second one, John was talking about getting a vendor who's tar and chip. We don't use tar and chip on our road program very often. And so to assume someone's going to come and do tar and chip and give us a good price here is unlikely. But then as Mary pointed out, Ron Reagan agrees tar and chip is not the proper coating for a parking lot. Tar and chip assumes straight wheel travel. If the wheels are turning, as in when you're pulling in and out of a parking spot or making this turn here, your wheels are turning hard, kicking the chips off of the tar. So all the painted lines for parking that we would put in would be soon lost as the wheels turn over them. Tar and chip is way too rough for the basketball court. Someone would be seriously hurt with tar and chip on the basketball court, so we'd have to come in and seal coat that anyway. Tar and chip is $16,000. Seal coating is $6,000. So it's almost 3 times the price and you don't get any extra benefit. So even if it was somehow economy of scale because you're using it in your road program, you might get it for $14,000. It's still double the cost and again, no benefit. The benefit of tar and chip is that it can be traveled on pretty soon after application. That is not true when the wheels are turning. You have to wait the same 48 hours you do for seal coating, per Ron Reagan. So tar and chip is out for price, for roughness, and because it can't hold the paint. Seal coating has to be done in the winter, in the summer, in the warmer months. So that's what we've selected, and the price is much less. So my next item I'm going to present.
Paul, before you, can I just ask a question? Okay. Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
So how long, you're saying it has to be done in the summer? Is it the summer, June, July versus April, May? Is it summer versus spring? It must be summer?
No, it doesn't. It's not must be summer, but the quote, Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong, the quote from the vendor, because we asked that specifically. The quote was the hotter, the better.
Correct.
And then my second question is, how long would these fields be out of service? Is it a week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a few days?
24 to 48 hours, depending on ambient temperatures and humidity. Humidity is actually just as important because of evaporation.
So 2 to 3 days. That would be the most that we would be out of.
No, 1 to 2 days, 24 to 48 hours.
So it's a minimal amount of time. If that's the case, then could we just not? Do we have to do this extra mowing? Can we not? Can we just for 2 days?
Yeah, let me go through the whole thing.
Okay.
Before I get off this slide, I heard your previous conversation about mowing this area right here behind the tennis courts or not. You know, this area here that's light color is all meadow. So what Greg is just proposing is that this over here would look like this. So you can see what it looks like right now. In 50% of the park is meadow. And as Joan said, the mowed areas here in the fields and around the fields, and then down here beside the lower pavilion, all mowed. Down below the soccer field, all mowed. So we have plenty of mowed areas. We're not giving up our only mowed area. It'll look like this meadow here. We're not proposing anything different than what happens here.
Yeah, I think the issue was accessibility. We already had that conversation with David.
I don't want to belabor that one.
I think we solved that.
Right. So I just 3 pictures here. You see in your books that you know, there is some cracking. This is some fine alligator cracking in the parking lot. Here the lines are totally gone. You cannot see where the parking lines are. They're original to the park, which I don't remember, Joan, is at 23 years old or 25 years old, something like that. And then a lot of road snakes showing all the cracks in the asphalt. Okay, so that was it for the pictures of what's in the park. So if we do this, let me bring this to the right screen. So now this is oriented north is up. Here's the parking lot we're proposing to coat, including the entranceway to here. If we do this, we would propose to put a temporary parking here. Jeff and I walked it, and I think Greg was there as well back in like February or something. You can see there's a driveway here that's existing, and we have a gate across this driveway. This was where a house used to be when this was a private property. And behind it was some sort of building. I don't know if it was a mushroom building or a big garage or something, but something was here, and it's some sort of compacted surface, like a slab or gravel or something that's compacted. This driveway drives back to here. So it's good driving surface is my point. And right now, Jimmy dumps, or Yardworks dumps like chips and you know, debris back here that can compost. So it is being driven on by trucks is my point. So it's good for driving. We would park here. When we looked at it in February, you know, it was just a weedy field, but pretty compacted down. But I assume in July, it's going to need a mowing. That's just a guess. And then the bikers already have a cut through here to access over. So they would have to walk about 50 feet and they're back in the park. Now that's an easy walk to the tennis courts, basketball courts, and pickleball courts and playground. I don't think that's asking too much of the people. Also not too far of a walk from what's already there to get to the upper baseball fields. If you have to go to the lower soccer field, that is a walk. You know, no doubt about it. That's a long way. So let's talk about that. If we do this in July, here's the park schedule. I got it a few weeks ago, and Joan can correct me if it's not exactly up to date, but here's the park schedule. The first field is the 90-foot baseball field, multi-purpose field A, which means the outfield of field A. And then field B is the lower baseball field, and field C is the lowest one down. I call that the soccer field. Everybody understand where they are? So
Yeah.
in July, the only two fields that are rented are here and here, blue and yellow. So that is the Avon Grove Little League. I contacted the Avon Grove Little League. Their season ends on June 19th. They have no games or any practices scheduled for the end of June or anything in July. The league is shut down until fall ball in September. So there will be no Avon Grove Little League activity in the park in July or even late June. The other one is blue, which is white clay soccer. I did not contact white clay soccer, but I know they practice during the week and games on the weekend for the most part. So if we close the park during 2 weekdays, which is when the contractor wants to work during the weekdays, we would interfere with 2 soccer practices, one on field A in the outfield, which is an upper field, so they can walk to that. One at the lower field, the soccer field, so that is a hike. So since all fields are empty, the baseball players aren't there, we could ask white clay soccer to practice on one of the other baseball fields, the 90-foot or the multi-purpose or field B, whatever. They could both, and I don't even know if they have a practice that day, right? Not everybody practices every day. And I'm being generic because I don't know what day it is. So the problem with us scheduling this next year is we don't gain anything. We don't gain anything because we can't tell them in January when they pay their money for the year that we're going to take this field out of play on July 5th or whatever, because the contractors can't commit to that date. They've got weather, they've got other jobs lined up. They're not going to commit to a 1 or 2 or 3 day window 6 months in advance when they're living by the weather, guaranteed.
Paul, you've convinced me. If I could get you to agree to one thing, I don't know if it's you or Greg, not to mow. I mean, we're talking 2 days. People can park their cars in the field and walk where they need to walk. But if we can agree not to mow, I'm with you.
Well,
So,
if the grass is really high, I don't think that's right. I think we have,
well, I don't know what the grass will look like in July, but I imagine it'll be waist high right here, right?
that's not right.
And so I did not talk to Yardworks to get a price. I just assumed it would take Jimmy half a day to mow this with a mower and a weed whacker, and then weed whack through here if the bikers trail is not in good condition. But the bikers did put an access point through here.
Yeah.
So what does a half day cost for 2 or 3 guys? I don't know. So I threw in $1,000 because I had to have this ready for your meeting. It might be 500 and Jimmy might be on the phone. I don't know. Or Joan might know what the rates are.
I can't.
So before anyone else answers, Paul, thank you for being so thorough, for doing your homework, for really looking ahead. And Dave, thanks for giving Paul the chance to speak. To me, you can see right here from the aerial view how bad the parking lot looks. It's embarrassing.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. It has to be done. Yeah.
I just think it has to be done. And I think, look at it this way, Donna, we're going to save money on not mowing in front of the tennis courts. So it's a one-time deal. And I think it's a great thing to do.
Well, look, we could not mow, but then I would advise that we just shut the park down for 2 days. And I don't really like that option. I think if we mow, just for safety reasons, you don't want children coming to the playground.
Fix everything. We've got to mow.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point that Nancy brought up, that we're going to not mow a much larger space this year. So that would be money that we're not going to spend.
Well, this is a one-time mow, Dave. This is one time. This over here is all season long. We're not going to mow.
Right.
So we're still net saving money. right? Because we're saving it on the other side. I mean, I don't know. I see you shaking your head a little bit, Donna, but you see,
I don't think of it that way, but that's okay. Like I said, you don't have. You have to convince 3 people, David. You don't have to convince me.
Well, I guess the other point that I see, the way I'm looking at it is, we're gonna have to do it anyway, right? So if we mow it this year or we mow it next year, it's still gonna have to get mowed.
Yeah, so I was looking at it a different way, and this is where Paul's presentation was helpful. I was under the impression we could do it in the spring, not in the winter, but in the spring before everything got up and running, and then you wouldn't have to worry about mowing it at that point because it would be that high. I'm hearing that.
The leagues start in March, right after the snow leaves the ground. There's no way we're going to seal coat in February. Right?
And Paul, can I say Superior did an amazing job on our driveway. I don't know where you found them, but boy, they have done the best job seal coating our driveway of anyone I've used.
What driveway?
I don't want to put Jim on the spot, so I'm going to ask Jeff to answer. What do you think? When you see $1,000, does that seem high to you for your experience of mowing, Jeff?
I think it would be reasonable. So, if it's less, it's, it'll be less, but I think Paul picked a decent
number
figure to go by.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, we're either going to spend it this year or we're going to spend it next year. Right.
And that's the way I see it, Dave.
Or
If
we
do it
close
this
the park.
year,
Or
fine. If not, we push it to
park.
next year.
So, or you close the park. That's your choice, I think.
And in the meantime, if we do it this year, a bunch of kids are really going to appreciate that basketball court. That's all I can say.
Yes.
So, I didn't even go over the bids, but I guess you guys all read them. This all includes 2 coats of seal coating, sand filled, so there's some non-skid in there, and then repainting the lines on the basketball court and the lines in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, are you saying the lines are included in this $76.50 from Superior Seal Coating? Because that was one of my questions. What about the lines?
Yeah, the lines on the basketball court and the
Yeah.
lines for parking.
Okay,
So it's in their proposal.
Yay. I think it's a great idea. I really do.
So
I do too. The more we can upgrade our park, the better for our residents. They call the office all the time and say, I just love that park. Thank you for providing that to me.
And frankly, let's keep the kids busy.
So here's Superior. This is for the yellow zone. That's the area we're talking about. Spray apply 2 coats of this grade coal tar. Fill the cracks that are larger than 1/4 inch with crack filler. And they're going to blow and clean everything before they do all the work, by the way. And then repaint all existing lines and markings on the surface. But the only lines we have are the parking lines. We have no like center lines or anything like that. All right, that's $61.50 for the roadway. And then proposal number 3 is basketball court, $750 to seal it and $750 to repaint the lines. Does not include a 3-point line, by the way. And because one does not exist now.
That's
Add
important for my basketball. So I think you need to include it.
You just eliminated my game, Paul. That's all I do.
I didn't catch all that, but I think you guys were teasing me. I really don't care if the 250 is in or out. I left it out because I didn't think it was
That's
necessary.
fine.
All right.
Let's
All
vote.
right, so that's, any other questions on Superior? Because that's all I have on them is this proposal. And then Jeff, this proposal is rather old. It's from October. So Jeff contacted them last week and they said they'll honor this quote.
That's great.
Wow.
Like I said, they did an amazing job on my driveway. So I think you're
And-
going to be happy with them.
And I did not, I didn't know Jeff got them from seeing him out working or something. I don't know where he came up with them, but I'm glad he did. The other 3, Action was very close at $78.06. I got them from the Little League. They did the Little League parking lot for Avergrove Little League. And that's a great, if you have bids this close, that means you're doing well, right? They all understood the
Right.
scope and they were good bidders. And then Lefevre is a little bit higher at 86.72. So that's 3 good bids. I think it's we're in the market here.
And Joan, you said we get the money from COVID we can be used for this?
Yes.
Yeah, so I had made a comment earlier. That comparing it to tar and chip. So this 6,000 is for the roads, and the tar and chip for the roads, Jeff, was at 16,000? Is that right?
Yeah.
Thereabouts, yes.
Yeah, so that's the 6 here versus 16 for tar and chip. That's why it wasn't recommended.
But Paul, the big deal is tar and chip. Ron said no.
He said no, right.
So
Yeah,
that's
big
with money we'd
benefit
be
of
wasting.
tar and chip is you can drive on it right away, and it provides good traction, but we don't need
Right.
good traction in the parking lot because you don't have high-speed travel.
Right.
All right.
Okay, if there are not any more questions, can we go to a vote?
Fine by me.
Okay. So then I don't know who started this. Dave, you started it. It's on you.
David, it's your motion.
Yep, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
Hey,
Nay. Motion carries 4-1. I think Donna, you said aye. Okay, so motion carries 4-1.
John, why did you vote against it? Could you just, do you feel comfortable explaining why?
no further comment.
Okay.
Okay. All right, now we're done our business and we've come to any public comment. Anyone in the public that wants to make comments?
I got one comment I made at the beginning in a meeting about documents being timely sent to the board prior to a meeting. That's been handled atrociously bad in the last 3 meetings. We need a real remedy. That stuff needs to come to us in a timely manner.
All right, thank you, John. Any other public comment? All right, if not, we will.
Mary?
Want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say how amazing our volunteers are. I mean, we had volunteers take a tree down in Banffshire that needed to be done.
Yeah.
We have these pro volunteers who are just incredible. It's just amazing the power of the community. So I want to say thank you to everyone, and it's really just heartening to see what people do.
I agree, Nancy. I agree. It's encouraging. So, all right, if there's no more public comment, we will adjourn the meeting. Woohoo, at 9:06.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Have
everybody.
a good week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything.
Bye-bye.